Newly born calves are dropped off at the sheds. Their navels have already been dipped in iodine in the paddock, but this is repeated again on arrival. Calves are then fed day 1 colostrum.
I like the stallion feeders for the fact that they have the peach teats on them, and the peach teats are easier to get them started. We don't keep them on the peach teats though. They'll change onto the milk bar teats that will slow up the whole drinking process. But when we're starting calves in the sheds, the first 10 days, it makes everyone's job easier. The calf, they've got nice partitions, so we know that each individual calf gets the right amount of milk. So we don't want to overfeed them, but we don't want to underfeed either. So we're just aiming that we're covering their needs, and we know that every individual calf is covered. And we repeat that with a stallion feeder in the paddock, but then we swap them onto a milk bar once they're a little bit older, and it just slows it up. These teats come out, as long as they're facing, they say top, and they face top, then they're giving the correct amount of milk coming out for the calf. So it's fairly easy. So as you can see, when we squeeze those teats, they're easy. We can do the milk bar teats, they've got to actually suck harder. This is quite a gentle suck to get that milk to come out. So these are definitely easier for the calf.
Yeah.
We actually prefer if they've just come straight from the cow, they're easier to get started, and we know that we can physically give them the colostrum that's needed instead of it all just being a guesswork. So I always go through and see who wants to drink first before we go and start tubing and things. So we want to get them drinking their 2 litres or their 10% of their body weight before we throw a tube down their throat. And it makes our job easier the next day as well. We feed 2 feeds of day 1 colostrum, so we want to ultimately get these calves drinking and sucking. So I always put a little bit of milk on my fingers, and it's just a matter of going and finding the first calves that are hungry, and just see if it's going to take any interest in the milk at all. And when we go to lift them up, can you either rub its back and pretend that mum's licking its body, or you can put your hand just into the hip bone and it pops up in its own time. So there's no forcing it, you can help it along by just putting your hand under the brisket and lifting that calf up. So we start looking for calves that might be chewing or licking and it's already smelt the milk. See if it's actually hungry before we bring it up. So another thing we do is with the calf, when you're rubbing its back, it's like mum's come along and given it a lick or whatever. So it's just a bit of encouraging the calf. And another way with the calf, like when you want it to walk forward, it's just putting your hand behind its butt, just by its tail, and just giving it a little dig, and they'll freely walk to however you want them to go. And it's just a matter of gently but firmly guiding them to where you want them to be. You go on there. It's best to be firm but gentle, but we don't want to harass them. So as soon as they start becoming harassed, they just dig their toes in and don't want to drink or do anything. So it's just a gentle encouragement. The feeder. And this one's going to run away. Come here, you. So I always place them between my legs, opposed to on the. Lots of people will actually hold them around the neck with their legs. And this calf is, we just literally encourage it to the teat and give it a couple of squeezes. See if it wants to suck, and then repeat it. And yes, this calf wants to suck, so we'll just gently give it a little rest and let it think about it. This is exactly what we want to aim for. So instead of tubing this calf, it's already willing to suck. We're going to put it onto the feeder, but just directing it back to the feeder again and encouraging it onto the feeder. So for me, it's just, we call it babysitting. You might have 12 calves here, and there's always someone just babysitting, making sure that they're in their spot. And I prefer using the division feeders because then you know that that calf has had its allotted amount. If you come over its nose from the top side, then you're recreating going under mum and nudging under her flank to get into to where the teat is. And it's just, I'll put my finger in its mouth, it sucks, and it's just gently giving it that drink. This is slightly too high, this feeder at the moment. And so the calf has to reach up quite high. So there's a risk of the milk heading into the wrong direction as we're feeding. So we want a nice curve in the neck and their head down so that they're getting the best suck they possibly can. And we want them to froth at the mouth and really work for that milk. So I always put my fingers in its mouth first with a bit of milk, see if it's interested, holding one hand so it's nice and straight, the other hand directing it and giving it a couple of squeezes and see if that calf will drink, which is another calf that wants to drink, so we'll let it drink. I'll give them a little bit of room, let them decide if they're hungry. If you start forcing them, so this one I'm annoying it now, so I keep sort of holding it a little bit firmer and it starts fighting. So as soon as it starts fighting, it now doesn't want to go and suck, so it's fighting against me. So we don't want that, we want to keep it so that you're being gentle but firm and you're just saying, right, you're going to drink. This calf's going on and off, on and off. That would be a calf that I would leave and let it think about it for a little bit, have another go. This would possibly be a calf that we would end up tubing. So as this calf gets a bit full, it starts shivering and shaking and puffing up. It looks like a bumblebee. Yeah. So it's getting to the stage where it's full, it's had what it's had. It's ended up having a good 2 litres already. But once they hit 4 days old, it's pretty simple then. Before that, it's very hands-on and very frustrating because they'll push each other off and things like that. So we make it so that every calf is accountable for their allotted amount. The girls are trained that keep an eye on their calves, know which calves are which, and to follow them for that feed.
Yeah, and I guess when you're teaching a calf how to drink, it can be quite time consuming and you need a lot of patience, don't you, really, as well? Yeah, you need to be patient with the calves. So why would you actually decide to tube a calf?
So we tube a calf because it hasn't drunk from the feeder. So as soon as they come into the shed, if they won't drink from the feeder, then we're going to tube it. It's day one milk straight into it. So that way we know it's covered within the 12-hour golden sort of time from once it was born to delivering here. So and as long as the tubing experience is a nice, again, firm but gentle, and then that way they don't struggle and fight the same as if you're forcing everything into them. It's really important that the tube, that you don't hurt the esophagus when you're tubing, because that's going to bite you in the butt further down the track when you're trying to teach that calf to drink. So you're going in softly and smoothly, but being confident. So there's no point being nervous, because then that portrays back to the animal as well. I'm gentle with it as well. If they're fighting too much, you can back them into a corner or something like that to hold them still. You've got to be careful and confident and make sure that the person that's doing it has been trained well to do the job. And then once you're more confident and you do more and more, then it becomes easier and easier.